Super excited to welcome a very special guest here. We have Charles De La Sala, aka Top Sales Coach on Instagram. To give you a little backstory on Charles before we get him to introduce himself, he's generated over $30 million in sales, and he's helped over 1,000 students with their sales skills. And he's known for helping you double your close rate in 30 days. He's got extensive sales experience, and he's also a serial entrepreneur. So, Charles, welcome. Super excited.
Thank you.
To have you with our community. And I guess we could start off with just getting a bit of background on you, how you got started, and what brings you to where you are today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Nick, so much for the introduction there. And nice to meet you guys. Again, name's Charles. My journey's been quite a long story, so I'll try to keep it brief and concise. But I'm born and raised California, always been kind of a hungry, business-minded person. Got in my first sales role. Well, technically I was working at the age of 14 at a candy store, selling product, right? At a very, very young age. But I've always had a drive and a passion to go beyond what's normal, right? To make more money, to create a better life for myself. But to fast forward a bit, I ended up going to college for business and marketing. And after that, I took an entry-level sales position at a small company in Northern California. And I did really, really well, but it was only like a part-time 3-month job. But it was during that time when I realized, oh my gosh, there is so much potential to make money when it comes to sales. So fast forward a couple years more, I got a job at a digital marketing company. I started as an entry level. I think some of you guys would call them a setter, right? Or maybe an AE, right? And then very, very quickly, I was transitioned into what I call a closer, right? Where I'm actually closing deals, managing accounts. And in just 8 years, I've been able to be promoted 6 times. I started again as a opener, then went to a closer, then I became a sales manager. After being a sales manager and finding success there, I was a director. From being a director, I went up to a senior director, and now I'm currently and still today in one of my roles, the VP of sales at a leading digital marketing agency here in the United States. And like Nick mentioned, I'm so passionate about sales. I do have a bit of experience. I've probably taken more than 10,000 sales calls, primarily over the phone or Zoom, kind of like this. Closed over 8,000 deals, more than 30 million in sales today. So there's nothing I love more than helping other people learn more about sales and continuing to be a student, right? So even I find myself studying other great salespeople. I mean, I still stay up till 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night sometimes watching videos just to see how can I get that much better. So, when it comes to sales, I'm all in.
That's amazing, man. Yeah, it really takes that growth mindset. And, some people say that, salespeople are either born or built. In your opinion, what did it take for you to kind of overcome those mental barriers, if you had any, when it came to developing the confidence to be really good at sales?
Yeah, so definitely not born, right? Like some people can be born, let's say, with an advantage, right? But I definitely believe that one of the biggest barriers people face in sales is that fear of getting rejected, because it's a process, right? You're going to take a lot of calls or do a lot of meetings. You're going to talk to a lot of people. But I'm here to tell everyone right now that sales is something that can be learned, and sales is a skill. Okay, so a skill can be taught, it can be learned. It is not something that you have to be born with in any way, shape, or form. When I first took that role in sales, although I ended up doing well, I knew nothing about it. But because of the fact, and I didn't get too much into this earlier, but I took it to the next level, right? Again, I took the scripts home. I was reading them. I was role playing. I was practicing. I was all in because I wanted to learn as much as I could. And I wanted to see what my potential truly was if I put my mind to it 100%. So getting back to the question again, mindset barriers, like, yes, fear of rejection. People think that you need to sell aggressively, or that salespeople are aggressive. You get that old used car salesman type of stigma. And, that can feel uncomfortable. And that leads people to, maybe even hesitate to take a job or a career in sales. But mostly it comes down to that self-belief, right? And people limit themselves due to the belief saying, I'm not a natural salesperson, right? And when you do this, it creates a mental block inside your brain, and that's going to stop you from finding success in sales. So one of the biggest things that you need to do is shift your mindset, right? And get into that positive mentality, that can do mindset, because anybody is capable of being a great salesperson if they just put the work in. So hopefully that helps.
Absolutely. And yeah, it really sounds like you're touching on the importance of, mindset, and also just developing a positive attitude toward yourself and your ability to perform as a salesperson. And I feel like a lot of people get trapped in the kind of the identity, like, I grew up as an introvert, so therefore, I won't be a good salesperson. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit? Like, for people that, let's say, are a bit more introverted, have you found that even introverted people can excel in sales roles, or do they kind of have to have more of an A-type personality?
Even introverted people can be extremely successful. I do have several introverted people. One of the sales teams, actually, I'm in the office right now, is about 70 sales reps out there behind me. We have several introverts, right? You don't have to be that A-type, but you do have to be skilled in the way of, you have to learn how to sell, have to persuade. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to be super charismatic, right? Like, just because I might be loud or outspoken doesn't mean that some of the best people out there behind me right now aren't making, let's say, $500,000 a year, and they talk very, very calmly, very monotone. So I would say that doesn't matter at all. I teach people to approach every conversation, just be themselves, be 100% genuine. That's pretty much one of the most important things. And then setting very clear expectations for the client at the beginning of the conversation. That reduces anxiety from kind of both sides, because then they know what to expect. And so do you, right? Because you kind of have this roadmap built out. Just like when we came onto this call, Nick introduced me and he said, hey, we're going to hear from Charles. He's going to tell you a little bit about XYZ, right? That's called setting an agenda. Or also, I'm trained in what's called Sandler. It's a high level sales training skill. They call it an upfront contract. So doing that upfront and using these different techniques will create like a more relaxed sales environment for both sides. So just to reiterate, A-type, introvert, doesn't matter. If you put the time in, you put the work in, and you learn the skills, anyone can be excellent at sales, for sure.
Amazing. And for those people that do put the work in and really spend time developing their mindset and kind of having that positive growth attitude towards developing themselves, getting better at sales, and investing in themselves, what have you found have been really like the most effective sales techniques for, let's say, an entrepreneur, a professional who just wants to improve their persuasion, their confidence in general, as well as in their professional life as well? Is there kind of like a formula that they can follow, let's say, from someone who doesn't know much about sales at all to getting into closing their first few deals, let's say?
Yeah, so I mean, having that can-do attitude, right? It all starts in the mind, I would say, is number one. That's critical. If you are going to enter in the sales world, you have to understand that you will deal with rejection. So you have to accept the fact that you're going to have to push through, right? There's going to be challenges along the way. Once you do that, some of the skills, I'd say, some of the most important skills, one of them is called the discovery phase. So learning how to ask really good questions. That's probably the most important sales skill that anybody could have, okay? Because asking the questions, and the good questions, that's what gets the prospect or the potential client to actually tell you their true desires, their true needs, their pain points, what they're struggling with. And if you can learn to do that effectively, the deals and the customers in a way will pretty much close themselves, right? So again, the mindset, the work ethic, right? And then if we're getting to the skills, learning how to ask good questions and learning how to communicate, okay? So while your personality might not matter, Nick, getting back to that A-type introvert, right? What does matter is that you speak clearly, okay? I don't care if you speak fast. I don't care if you speak slow. You need to be clear, right? So if you're not speaking clearly, they say practice opening your mouth wider, right? That gives you clarity of speech, right? There's little things like that. But communication skills are absolutely critical when it comes to sales and when it comes to negotiation. So if you can focus on those few things, sales doesn't have to be high pressure. I mean, most sales and positive sales interactions are not a conversation where one party, the salesperson, is kind of forcing the other person to do something they don't want to do. It's actually counterintuitive, and it's really getting into the psychology of the human brain and understanding the person that you're talking to. So if you can just work on establishing your baseline communication skills, right? If you have a good work ethic, if you're a go-getter, if you have that positive can-do mindset, then you're already going to be levels ahead of a lot of other people that enter into the sales world.
Amazing. And in terms of kind of misconceptions in the sales space, I think you touched on a really good one there too, is that oftentimes salespeople have this snake oil salesman reputation, right? For especially people that aren't in the sales space. You kind of speak to some of the misconceptions that say people, first getting into the sales world, they kind of approach it with, maybe a stereotypical mindset, or they go in, they kind of feel like they have to act a certain way in order to be an effective salesperson, and maybe speak to your experience with that.
Yeah, sure. All the time, and that stereotype hopefully one day will go away. But even if it doesn't, entrepreneurs, business people, salespeople, they oftentimes they'll feel uncomfortable selling because of what you just said. They associate it with being pushy or aggressive. So, I coach people to reframe their mindset with a consultative approach, kind of like I was talking about earlier, emphasizing selling is really about helping someone else, right? At the end of the day, when someone is in need of your product or service, what you're really doing is understanding their problem, having a genuine conversation, just like we are, and you're looking for a real way to help them. And at the end of the day, if you're not the right fit, or let's say your service or product can't help them, it's your duty as a person and as a salesperson, right? And if you want to have a good conscious of mind to say, hey, look, like, Nick, maybe we're not the right fit for each other, right? You're not going to win them all. So you're not pushing a product, right? You want to shift your focus from your product to the actual problem that the consumer is having. So instead of thinking like, I don't know, how can I sell this, right? What you want to do is encourage them to think, how can I help solve this person's problem, right? And one way that you can do that, and you can do it really well, is becoming a very good listener. I don't think I touched on this yet. So active listening is another super critical sales skill, along with asking the right questions, because in most sales calls, people think all you're doing is selling, all you're doing is talking, but it's actually quite the opposite for a high level consultative salesperson. What you're really doing is asking targeted questions, and then you're being a very good listener, because based on what the person is telling you, meaning you're not doing nearly as much the work as you think you are. So if you've talked to other salespeople, or you think, oh, this person's a talker, they must talk a lot, really the best salespeople ask great questions and they know how to listen. So you're really, at the end of the day, guiding someone towards making the best decision. And you can also work on reducing that pressure, like I was talking about earlier, by giving an upfront contract, making sure you have a mutual understanding for the reason why you're here today. So a structured approach, it really helps take the fear of selling and it turns it more into like a service oriented process. Does that make sense?
100%. Yeah, and in terms of obviously a lot of people, they have the fear of rejection, right? But if you
Yeah.
really are able to master overcoming objections, you can also mitigate and predict rejection, right? And obviously getting more comfortable with it, going through the process and really just getting comfortable with rejection, of course, is important. But is there any particular kind of insider tricks you've learned along the years in your career when it comes to dealing with objections as they come up, or like you had mentioned, kind of setting the frame in the beginning so that you're
Yes.
able to mitigate potential objections?
Yeah. So like rejection is inevitable in sales, right? At the end of the day, but it absolutely doesn't have to destroy your confidence, right? So I help my clients handle rejection by shifting their perspective, teaching them that no is not a personal failure, right? It's just really part of the process of qualifying people, right? So emphasizing that no is just as valuable as a yes, because it actually prevents you from wasting time and energy on people who aren't even a good fit. So getting back to what you were saying, a really good closer or very good salesperson, if they follow the process right, there are no objections at the end of the call. Generally speaking, when you don't have structure to your sales pitch and you skip parts of the script, that's where the objections come in at the end. But a true top performing salesperson, by the time you get to the end of the call, and I have thousands of recordings like this, wish I could play one now, but don't have it ready. You'll hear the customer just say, okay, well, like, how do I pay you? You know, like, how do I get started? Right. And when someone's like, let me give you my credit card, like, take my money, right? That you've hit every point. Okay. So if you miss something, right, you're going to leave room for error. You're going to get the objection. So to answer your question, Nick, if you use the sales process properly and you have a structured format to you hit on every key point, that's how you truly eliminate objections. This BS that's out there in the universe about like, oh, well, if they say I got to call my wife, like you got to say this. Well, I'm here to tell you right now that doesn't ever have to happen. Okay. I'm not telling you that it will never happen because we're human beings. And when you're dealing with humans, humans behave in different ways, right? They're emotional, things like that. However, you can extreme limit the amount of times that happens. And I coach my clients to detach completely from the outcome and just focus on that sales process, right? I was talking about the upfront contract where we set the expectation. That kind of eliminates surprises, takes the sting out of the rejection. Both people are clear on what might happen. Sometimes I'll even tell people in the beginning, like, hey, if we get through this process at any point and you feel like it's not a good fit for you, please, please tell me no. Just let me know. I would love to know that up front, right? So I don't want them to waste my time, nor do I want to waste theirs, right? So there's little techniques that you can do to eliminate objections along the way. And then again, there is objection handling training that I do intensively with a lot of people because, they're still studying, they're still learning, they're still not there yet. They're getting objections. So depending on what the objection is, there are ways to handle it, overcome it, right? Make the person feel confident again, and then ask for the sale and still get the deal on that same call.
Amazing. And final question here for you. And when it comes to actually closing deals, so obviously you've been at the table with some heavy hitters over your career. What is the number one thing you find when it comes to actually getting the deal, getting the deal across the board and actually getting it closed? When it comes to the pitch, a lot of people, mess up the pitch. They have the whole call goes well, but then right at the end, they kind of fumble a little bit. What are some tips you would give to someone who's getting started, who wants to improve, particularly their delivery of the pitch and kind of just solidifying the deal?
So at the end of the call, right? Sorry, you cut out a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the call, having thick skin and not giving up is the number one thing that I teach, right? This is the biggest mistake that I see anybody make. I'm here to tell you guys. People will spend 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, an hour, right, on the phone. And then the customer says, well, I want to think about it. The biggest mistake you can make is saying, okay, well, when do you want to talk again? Right? You basically just wasted a full hour. Okay. So you have to understand that objections are not a no. Okay. They're usually like, I love what you're saying, but I'm not quite ready yet. Okay. So this is the mindset you want to adapt, right? So you have to figure out, okay, obviously I missed something. This person wants to think about it. And you have to adapt the mindset, I'm not giving up. Because the odds of this person, if they're telling me no now, answering again tomorrow are pretty slim, depending on your industry, your business, what you're selling, right? A lot of people call it getting ghosted. And I'm sure if you're in sales right now, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Nobody wants to get ghosted, right? So you want to try to close by all means while you have there's two parts of sales. One is logic, one is emotion. You have to have both sides. You cannot sell simply on logic alone. You cannot sell simply on emotion alone. Okay. So the logic has to be there. Like, okay, I see the financials make sense. I see I'm going to get a ROI, a return, within 90 days. That's reasonable to me, Charles. And then the emotion where I'm painting the picture where it might be, better life for you, more vacations for your family. I'm going to double your income in 90 days, whatever, right? Now they're visualizing that trip to the Bahamas, right? That's the emotion. You have to have both, okay? And then what you have to do is you have to tell yourself, I need to dig a little deeper. So you have to pivot, and then you want to say, okay, between now and let's say we schedule a meeting for tomorrow, right? What exactly is it that you want to think about? Can you tell me a little bit more? What does that process look like for you, John? Right? This is just a quick role play. And you might say, well, I wanted to check out XYZ. Okay. So it is your job, if you want to get that deal, to take it on head first right now. You know what, John? While we're in the meeting here, let me just share my screen with you right here. Let me show you our website. I think I maybe went a little bit quick earlier. Let me take you back to our credentials. Let's say for this company, marketing. We've been partnered with Google since 2009 for over 15 years at the channel level. That's an invite only level, right? So if anybody can do it, we can. So obviously I felt that he was having some doubt, like, oh, I want to do more research. So by the way, I don't know if you saw this, but let me show you these 5-star reviews and a few testimonials from these clients that I just worked with in the last 90 days. I think this will make you feel a little bit better, right? So now I'm reframing his mind. I eliminated that fear, right? And then if he's tough, we'll just pretend that he's a tough cookie. All right, yeah, that's great. Like I trust you now. Well, I want to talk to the wife, right? So at this point, you don't just say, okay, well, when can we talk again? You start digging in there. Well, is your wife on the same page as you, generally speaking? I mean, how long you been married? You said 10 years? Yeah. Okay. Awesome. So you guys are best friends. Obviously, you know everything about it. I'm sure your wife would be happy to support your goals of growing your business, making more money for the family, right? Trying to feed your employees more jobs, right? And she would agree that this is a good decision, right? Well, yeah, generally speaking. Okay. And let me ask you this. Have you ever talked to your wife about this? I mean, I'm assuming we're talking about XYZ, right? That this has come up in discussion. And was she supportive at that time? Well, yeah, she was. Okay. And one more question, like when your wife goes grocery shopping or to the mall, I mean, did she have to call you every time she wants to spend any money? Well, no. And I mean, let's be realistic. Like, this is your business, right? Like, I get it, you're for the family, but like, ultimately, this is what you want. And you and I both know if you want to get to where you want to be, right? Then this is the decision that we have to make and you have to make for yourself. So if you feel like everything here is going to give you that, then let's just get this started, right? Let's not put it off any longer because you're in the position that you're in today because we've been delaying, right? So while as much as I'd love to call your wife right now, and if you really want to, we can conference her in, right? But you and I both know ultimately this is something you need, regardless of what the wife says, right? So you see how I did that? So I'm not going to give up. Now, if at this point he tries to call, he's like, all right, let me call her. Can't call her. I've exhausted that. I showed him the value. Okay, let's set a meeting. Now, this is one more freebie I'll give you guys. So I'm not just going to say, call me tomorrow, mid-morning. Absolutely not. Huge mistake. Okay. Never, ever do that. You have to be precise. Okay. So let me open my calendar. Could you open yours? All right. Yeah, it looks like, and you want to be limiting. I don't care if you have your days wide open. Looks like I've got a pretty booked day. I think I've got 2 openings, right? I've got a 10 and a noon. Which one will work better for you, John? Right? So be precise. Okay, great. Noon. Okay, I'm sending you a calendar invite right now. Can you just click yes on that email? Can you open up your email? Make them do it on the phone live, unless you're talking to, a roofing contractor and he's hanging off the roof. Like, I get it, right? I'm not going to force him, but you know what I'm going to do? In about 5 minutes, I'm going to send him a text and I'm going to say, hey, John, just sent you that invite via email. Can you just reply with a quick thumbs up or something like that to confirm you got it and that we're on for noon tomorrow? And if he doesn't reply to me, this is another level. I am not going to let him ghost me. I'm going to ghost him. His ASS, right? I am in charge, right? You never let someone take that away from you. So I'm calling him first thing in the morning, right? 9 a.m. Hey John, or hey Nick, like I noticed you haven't accepted the invite yet. I just want you to know, like, I've got a lot of meetings today. It actually looks like I'm back to back, and I have 3 clients that are trying to request a spot, but I haven't said anything to yet because I'm probably going to have to push them out till Friday. So I'm just letting you know, if I don't hear back from you in the next hour, I'm going to go ahead and move Debbie into your spot because, I got people that want the help. So please let me know what we're doing, right? So I'm taking control, right? I am not scared that he's going to get offended, right? Like, this is my time. I booked the calendar. I'm trying to help him. So these are some of the things that you'll learn in sales. Hopefully that helped you guys. Just a little preview of some of the things I help my students with.
Amazing advice, Charles. Really appreciate it. Crazy insights. I love the little live role play there. That was fantastic. Yeah. So Charles, where can the people find you and learn more about what you do?
Yeah. So Instagram's probably the easiest way. It's at Top Sales Coach. I don't know if you can put my handle on this or something for them to click it.
Sure.
I also have my email, if you can put that in there, but it's salestrainingexp@gmail.com. You can use that as well. But, send me a message. I do get a lot, like maybe 30, 40 a day sometimes, but I do go through those. And if you reference maybe this call, this video, if you reference my boy Nick here, I'll make sure to move you to the top of the list, and we'll see how we can help you.
Really appreciate your time, Charles. This is definitely a real treat for the community. I know they're going to enjoy it. So yeah, I really appreciate your time, man.
Not a problem. Thanks for everything.
Thank you. Bye-bye.